When the Avengers face their darkest hour, the betrayal of one of their own unleashes a catastrophic war. Thor's shocking confession shakes the team to its core, but it's Hulk's uncontrollable rage that could destroy everything. As the alien lords prepare their final strike, Iron Man's secret plan backfires, leading to the ultimate test of trust and power. Can the Avengers survive the chaos, or will their bonds break under the weight of betrayal? The battle for the universe has just begun. The betrayal that shattered everything. The sky above Earth was bruised with dark clouds, the calm before an inevitable storm. Deep within the heart of Avengers Tower, the team gathered, unsure, tense, and fractured by what had just been revealed. The moment the words left Thor's lips, everything changed. "I never wanted you to know," Thor said, his voice barely a whisper. He stood before the Avengers, shoulders slumped, the weight of his confession pressing down on him like the very skies he once wielded as a god. "The alien threat, the one we've been fighting. I was part of it." The room fell silent. The air crackled with tension as Captain America's eyes narrowed. His fists clenched at his sides, every muscle in his body screaming to react. But his sense of duty held him back, for now. Iron Man was the first to speak, his voice sharp, cutting through the heaviness. "What the hell are you talking about, Thor?" Tony Stark's tone was furious, a mix of disbelief and anger simmering beneath the surface. "You were part of the alien lord's plan? All this time, we've been fighting their war, and you—" "I didn't know then," Thor interjected quickly, desperation in his voice. "I was deceived. They made me believe we were fighting to protect the Nine Realms. But now I see the truth. They've manipulated me, used me as a pawn to bring about their conquest of Earth." Hulk's massive form loomed at the edge of the room, his green eyes flickering with barely contained rage. He'd been silent until now, but the tension was suffocating. "Thor," he growled, his voice guttural, "you hurt team?" Hulk angry. The tension was palpable. But the worst part? Thor wasn't lying. Everything he'd said was the truth. The Avengers had been manipulated, led to battle a war they were never meant to fight. All those nights spent planning, risking their lives. It had been a game for the alien lords, a game Thor had unwittingly helped orchestrate. His guilt was etched on his face as his eyes met Captain America's. Steve Rogers stood still, his stoic demeanor cracked. For the first time since the group had come together, Captain America's trust was shattered. He looked at Thor with a mix of disbelief and sorrow. The man he'd fought beside, bled with, and trusted more than anyone, had kept a secret that could tear the world apart. "We've been set up," Steve muttered under his breath, his voice shaking. "You didn't just betray us. You betrayed Earth." Thor lowered his head, unable to meet his friend's eyes. It was the hardest thing he'd ever done, to stand here and admit his fault. He wasn't just revealing a secret. He was opening the floodgates to their collective destruction. Iron Man paced back and forth, his mind racing. He could feel the weight of the situation pressing in on him. He had to act. They couldn't afford to fall apart, not with the alien lords, the biggest threat they'd ever faced, only a step away from domination. But his mind kept returning to one thing. How could he have missed this? How could he have trusted Thor so blindly? "You think we can just fight this off?" Tony snapped, shaking his head. "You led us to them, Thor. You were their foot soldier. And now we're supposed to trust you again? Just like that?" Thor's eyes flashed with a deep, unspoken sorrow. "I can't change the past, Tony. But I swear to you, I will undo this. I will fight back against the alien lords until my last breath." "You're damn right you will," Tony said, his voice turning cold. "And so will we. But there's no going back from this. We can't just let this slide." As the team grappled with Thor's revelation, the ground beneath them began to tremble. A deep, rumbling noise shook the very foundation of a tower, reverberating in their bones. The Avengers turned toward the large windows, seeing nothing but an expanse of darkness outside. It wasn't a storm. It was an army. The sky split open, revealing a fleet of alien ships descending on Earth. The alien lords were coming. The invasion had begun. "This is it," Steve said, his jaw set, eyes narrowing. This is what we've been preparing for. Iron Man's eyes gleamed with a dangerous resolve. Then it's time to put aside our differences and fight. Thor clenched his fists, his lightning-summoning power flaring, casting erratic flashes across the room. I will fight with you. No more secrets, no more lies. Together, we will stop them. Hulk's growl rumbled in agreement. He was ready. But as they moved to assemble, something else broke in the background. A whispering voice, dark and malevolent, echoed through the tower. A voice none of them had ever heard before. You can't stop what's already begun, Avengers. It was the voice of the Alien Lord's leader, an entity known only as the Master of the Void. He was a being of pure darkness, a force too powerful to be comprehended by mortal minds. And his words sent a shiver down every spine in the room. We don't need to stop it, Tony retorted, his armor now fully engaged. We just need to give them a fight they won't forget. The Avengers charged into the war, each battling their own inner demons. Thor had betrayed them, but Earth was still under threat, and that was something they could not ignore. Hulk's fury burned brighter than ever. Iron Man's mind raced, looking for any advantage, any edge they could use. Captain America's leadership was more vital now than ever. But as they prepared for the battle ahead, a devastating realization hit them. They were not ready for what the Alien Lords had planned. The first wave of the invasion hit the Avengers with unimaginable force. Alien soldiers, monstrous creatures, and massive warships descended upon Earth with an unyielding power. Hulk smashed through the ranks, but there were just too many. Iron Man unleashed a barrage of missiles, but they seemed to be absorbed by the invaders' energy shields. Even Thor, with his godly powers, was barely able to hold his ground against the overwhelming force. In the midst of the chaos, Captain America found himself face to face with the leader of the Alien Lords, the Master of the Void. He was everything Thor had warned them about, a being of pure malice, cold intelligence, and boundless power. Cap, get out of there, Tony shouted, but Steve didn't back down. You think you can break us, alien? Steve growled, gripping his shield tightly. We're the Avengers. We don't back down from anyone. But the Master of the Void only smirked, raising a hand toward the sky. The earth trembled as his dark magic surged. You have no idea what you're up against, Captain Rogers. You think Thor's betrayal was the worst of your problems? It's only just begun. The Avengers' fight had just begun, but already they were losing. The Master of the Void's dark powers seemed unstoppable, and the alien army was vast. With every passing second, it became clearer that the battle for Earth would not be easy. The only question now was, could the Avengers overcome their personal struggles and unite against the enemy? Or would the darkness of betrayal and overwhelming power prove to be their undoing? The war unleashed. The battle raged on outside, chaos engulfing the streets, as the Avengers faced a force beyond anything they had ever encountered. Iron Man's suit sputtered from the constant barrage of alien energy blasts. Hulk tore through the advancing alien soldiers, but the enemy kept coming, endless as a tide. Thor summoned lightning, his godly powers striking down enemy after enemy. But it was clear, they weren't winning. The Alien Lord's forces were too vast, too powerful. Inside Avengers Tower, the remaining heroes gathered in the war room. The flickering screens showed footage of the battle below, chaos swirling as civilians fled, and destruction spread like wildfire. But there was a different, darker presence among them now. The trust they had built over the years was starting to crack like a broken dam, and with Thor's betrayal still hanging over their heads, it was hard to ignore the unease that simmered beneath the surface. We need to do something, Tony Stark snapped, his voice filled with tension. They're overwhelming us. We can't hold out much longer. Captain America, standing tall as always, scanned the battle reports. His jaw was clenched, his mind working overtime, strategizing. But no plan seemed strong enough. Not when their enemy knew how to break their spirits. The Alien Lord's leader, the Master of the Void, is too strong, Steve muttered, his eyes narrowing at the screen. We're not just fighting soldiers anymore. This is war on a cosmic scale. Thor, standing at the edge of the room, gripped Mjolnir tightly. His eyes were full of regret. He could feel the weight of his betrayal, the distrust of his teammates. But even worse was the growing suspicion that he hadn't just betrayed his friends. He had doomed them. How could I have been so blind? He thought. Thor, Steve said, turning to him, you may have betrayed us, but now isn't the time to get lost in guilt. We need a plan. We need to win. Thor nodded, but it wasn't enough. His mind raced, trying to piece together the secrets the alien lords had hidden. He could feel the pulse of their plan unfolding, but there was one thing he knew for sure. The Master of the Void had control over something far worse than just his army. Something much darker. Something capable of destroying everything the Avengers had ever fought for. Iron Man interrupted his thoughts. I've been working on something. I don't know if it'll work, but it's our best shot. He pulled up a holographic display showing a massive weapon, something designed to strike at the heart of the alien lord's command ship, the Voidbringer. Tony, Steve began, his face tight with doubt. This is insane. You're talking about attacking their command center, without even knowing what's inside it. I'm well aware, Tony said, cutting him off. But we don't have a choice. We're on the edge of losing everything. I'll need help to execute the plan. Who's with me? Captain America glanced at his team, his eyes falling on Thor. The god stood, waiting. His presence was still a reminder of what had been lost, but the reality was undeniable. The Avengers needed Thor's power. They needed his redemption. We're in this together, Steve said, his voice steady, filled with purpose. Let's take down the Voidbringer. Outside, the sky darkened further as the battle escalated. The alien lord ships loomed overhead like monstrous gods, casting their shadow over Earth. The Master of the Void had made it clear, nothing would stop him from bringing Earth to its knees. His army of invincible soldiers swarmed the streets, leaving destruction in their wake. But the Avengers wouldn't back down. This was their home, their world, and no amount of betrayal or overwhelming odds would stop them from protecting it. Thor's hammer slammed into the ground, lightning flashing from the skies. I will make it right, he muttered, almost to himself. For Earth. For all of you. The Voidbringer. The Avengers made their way toward the heart of the battlefield, where the Voidbringer hovered in the distance. Tony's plan was dangerous, almost suicidal. But it was their only shot. Every minute they wasted brought Earth closer to extinction. This is going to be tricky, Tony said, glancing at the others through his helmet's heads-up display. I'm not sure how we're going to get inside. Their defenses are practically impenetrable. We'll break through, Captain America said with unshaken confidence. We've done the impossible before. They approached the massive alien ship, which towered above them like a monolithic god. Its surface rippled with dark energy, an aura that could chill even the bravest heart. The team moved forward, Iron Man leading the charge, firing off blasts to clear the way. Hulk roared, smashing through anything in his path, while Thor summoned bolts of lightning that lit up the sky. But as they neared the ship, something unexpected happened. The ground beneath them rumbled, as if the very earth was shaking in fear. Then from the Voidbringer, a massive form emerged, a towering figure with armor forged from shadows and darkness, radiating power. It was the Master of the Void himself. He floated above the ground, an embodiment of terror, his voice booming across the battlefield. Foolish mortals, you think you can stop me? His voice reverberated in their minds, a cold, malicious presence. Thor's grip on Mjolnir tightened, and for the first time, the team felt true fear. The Master of the Void was not just a cosmic being. He was something beyond even the Celestials, a force of destruction whose power was immeasurable. You can never win, the Master of the Void sneered. You've been playing in my game from the start. Earth was always mine to destroy. Iron Man clenched his fists. Not today, pal. Not today. The final stand. The team split up, each member moving into position. Captain America led the charge toward the lower decks of the Voidbringer, using his shield to deflect attacks and clear the path. Iron Man shot up into the air, locking onto the ship's weak points with his targeting systems. Thor faced the Master of the Void, their eyes locking in a silent war of wills. It was the ultimate clash of gods, the balance of the universe teetering on the edge. "You're too late, Thor," the master of the void hissed. "The universe will be mine, and with your failure, Earth will fall." Thor raised Mjolnir high, his voice ringing out with determination. "Not today. I will make things right. This is my redemption." The fight between the two beings was nothing short of apocalyptic. The very air crackled with raw energy as Thor unleashed the full might of his powers. Lightning rained down in furious torrents, crashing against the Void Master's dark magic. Every strike, every blow, shook the very foundations of the Voidbringer. But even Thor's godly strength was not enough. The Master of the Void absorbed the lightning, his dark aura growing stronger with each passing moment. Just as it seemed all hope was lost, Iron Man's voice cut through the chaos. "I'm in," he shouted, his suit glowing as he launched the final phase of his plan. A massive energy surge erupted from his suit, streaking toward the heart of the Voidbringer. The ship's defenses faltered as the energy blast hit its core, destabilizing the Voidbringer's power. "We've got a shot," Tony shouted. "Finish it." The Avengers fought like never before, their unity stronger than ever. The Master of the Void may have been the strongest enemy they had ever faced, but they knew one thing for certain. The Avengers never quit. The heart of the Void. The battle had taken its toll. Avengers Tower was in ruins, streets lay in shambles, and the once proud skyline of New York was barely recognizable. Yet, amidst the chaos, the Avengers pressed on, unyielding. Iron Man's suit flickered with energy. Thor's body crackled with the remnants of his godly power, and Captain America's shield bore the scars of countless battles. But none of that mattered now. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and they were only moments away from either victory or annihilation. The Voidbringer trembled as Iron Man's energy blast cracked us all. It was a blow, but not the killing one. "We're running out of time," Tony yelled, as the force field around the ship flickered back to life. The alien ship began to regenerate, its outer surface repairing itself like a wounded beast healing in real time. Captain America led the charge, his shield held high as he sprinted toward the ship's entrance. "We need to stop it before they finish rebuilding," he ordered. Hulk, his green skin shining in the light of exploding debris, let out a roar, his rage uncontainable. "Hulk smash!" he bellowed, charging the ship with the force of a hurricane. Thor stayed by Steve's side, eyes locked on the Master of the Void as the dark god floated above them, his eyes glowing like burning stars. The Master was powerful, his presence filling the space like a suffocating storm. "You are mere mortals," he sneered, "foolish to think you could ever stand against me." Thor's grip on Mjolnir tightened. "I stand for Earth," he growled, "and I will not allow you to take it." The Thunder God leaped toward the Master of the Void, striking him with the full might of his storm. Lightning crackled across the battlefield, a blinding flash of pure power. But the Master of the Void absorbed the attack with a cruel smile, his body morphing like liquid shadow. "You're wasting your strength," he hissed. "I am beyond your reach." Thor's jaw clenched. "No, this ends now." Iron Man's gambit. Meanwhile, Iron Man was hard at work on the ship's interior, weaving through corridors lit by red and green alien energy. His HUD blinked warnings, but Tony wasn't worried about that now. He was focused on one thing: destroying the Voidbringer's core, the heart of the ship. He had to stop it from regenerating, or they were all done for. Come on," Tony muttered under his breath, his fingers flying across the holographic keyboard in his suit. The mission was risky, but there was no other choice. His eyes darted to the hologram of the ship's layout. He was almost there. "I'll never hear the end of it from Pepper if I screw this up," he quipped, trying to lighten the mood despite the gravity of the situation. Behind him, a wave of alien soldiers surged forward, but Iron Man quickly activated his repulsor blasts, blasting them back into the walls. "Not today, boys." His suit glowed with energy, and he advanced to the ship's core, a massive structure pulsating with dark energy. The Voidbringer's heart was a swirling mass of chaos, a concentration of power that seemed to warp reality itself. Tony's eyes narrowed in determination. He was about to do something incredibly reckless. But what choice did he have? He planted the charge on the core, and it immediately began to pulse, a countdown starting on his suit's HUD. "All right, guys," he said into the comms, "you've got 3 minutes. Get ready for one hell of a fireworks show." The final strike. Back outside, the Avengers were being overwhelmed. The alien soldiers, stronger than anything they had faced before, kept pushing forward. Hulk was in the thick of it, smashing through enemies with every swing, but he was tiring. His massive fists cracked skulls, his roars echoing across the battlefield. But the aliens kept coming, more powerful, more relentless with each wave. Captain America's shield glinted in the firelight as he defended his team. He was taking hit after hit, but his will was unbreakable. The true strength of the Avengers wasn't their powers, it was their heart. And right now, Steve Rogers embodied that heart. "Hold the line," he shouted, rallying his teammates. Thor stood by his side, unleashing the full fury of the storm upon the alien army. The skies above them were alive with lightning, thunder cracking in an unrelenting barrage. But as strong as Thor was, the Master of the Void still loomed overhead, an immovable force. The Dark God had turned the tide, and the Avengers found themselves fighting not only for Earth, but for survival. But Steve knew one thing. They couldn't just fight. They had to end it. "Thor, the core." Steve yelled. Thor looked up, eyes flashing with realization. He knew what needed to be done. Without hesitation, he leaped high into the air, Mjolnir raised. "For Earth," he roared, diving straight toward the heart of the Voidbringer. The moment of truth. Inside, Iron Man's countdown reached its final seconds. The charge was primed. He could hear the battle raging outside, the sounds of his friends giving everything they had. But the moment he'd feared was here. He checked his suit's readings. Everything was unstable, but there was no turning back. 3, 2, 1 now. Iron Man's pulse repulsors fired, propelling him away from the core as the charge exploded. The explosion. The Voidbringer's core erupted with unimaginable force. A blinding flash of white light engulfed everything, sending shockwaves through the ship and tearing apart the sky. The explosion rattled the entire battlefield, the force so intense it shook the Earth to its core. The alien ship, once a mighty weapon, was now a burning husk, its once indomitable power reduced to nothing. The Avengers were thrown back by the blast, tumbling through the air and crashing into the ruins of the city. Iron Man's suit flickered, and his body ached from the impact. But as he pushed himself up, he saw the result of the explosion. The Voidbringer was gone. The Master of the Void, floating above them, roared in fury. His army disintegrated with the ship, and the once indestructible force crumbled before their eyes. But the Master wasn't finished yet. "You may have destroyed my ship," he growled, eyes burning with rage, "but you have not defeated me." Thor, barely able to stand after the explosion, gripped Mjolnir. "Then come and face me, Void." The battle for Earth's survival. The Master of the Void was seething, his dark form rippling with pure energy as he floated above the wreckage of the Voidbringer. His eyes burned with fury, glowing like twin supernovas, and his voice boomed across the battlefield. "You think you've won? This is merely a setback. The war is far from over." Thor, still struggling to stand after the explosion, lifted Mjolnir with the last of his strength. The god's face was bruised, sweat mixing with the grime of battle, but his resolve was ironclad. He had already lost so much, his trust, his honor, but he would not lose Earth. "We've come too far to let you win," Thor spat, his voice defiant despite the pain. "This ends now." Captain America, battered but unbroken, rallied his team. The Avengers had been through hell, but they were still standing. Every blow they took only fueled their drive to protect Earth. "This isn't over, guys," Steve said, his shield now bearing the scars of countless battles. "We've taken down worse. We're taking down the Master of the Void next." Iron Man's voice crackled over the comms, his tone serious. "He's more powerful than anything we've faced. His abilities are off the charts, but we can't let him destroy Earth. We need a plan now." The ground shook again as the Master of the Void descended toward them, his shadow swallowing the light. "Your planet is nothing more than a plaything to me," he sneered. All your efforts are futile. I am inevitable. Iron Man quickly activated his suit's weapon systems. His mind was racing. He had no idea how to stop this dark force, but they couldn't let Earth fall into his hands. Tony, you have to come up with something, Steve urged. Trust me, Tony replied, I've got a plan. But we need a distraction, and it has to be big. Thor's eyes met Steve's. We'll keep him busy. You get the chance you need, Stark. The Master of the Void laughed, his voice cold and mocking. A distraction? How quaint. But you will not last long enough to make a difference. Your puny mortal lives are not worth saving. Thor raised Mjolnir high, summoning the fury of 1,000 storms. Try me, he roared, lightning crackling from the hammer. The final confrontation. The skies above them darkened, and the winds howled as Thor and the Master of the Void clashed in an explosion of raw power. Mjolnir struck the Void Master with a deafening crack, but the Dark God absorbed the blow, twisting the energy to his advantage. With a flick of his hand, a blast of shadowy force shot out, knocking Thor back. Captain America lunged forward, his shield raised, deflecting the Void Master's attack. But the Dark God's power was too overwhelming. Steve barely held his ground as the force of the blast threw him to the side. Hulk roared, his immense power surging as he charged at the Master, but the alien god effortlessly swatted him away. Is this all you've got? The Master of the Void taunted, his laughter echoing through the battlefield. Iron Man was working furiously behind the scenes. His suit glowed with energy, and he quickly analyzed the Master of the Void's powers. All right, I've got one shot at this, Tony muttered to himself, checking his suit's diagnostics. The only way to take down the Master of the Void was to hit him at his core, where his power was the most concentrated. But getting close enough to strike was a nearly impossible task. Thor, recovering from the blast, shouted, "Distract him, Stark. We need more time." Iron Man gritted his teeth. Hold on. I'm almost there. The power of unity. The Master of the Void surged forward, his eyes locking onto Captain America. With a flick of his hand, he sent Steve flying, the force of the blast sending him tumbling across the rubble. Thor's anger flared, and with a mighty leap, he tackled the Void Master, Mjolnir in hand. You will not have Earth, Thor growled, his voice filled with fury. He swung the hammer with all his might, but the Void Master's shadowy tendrils lashed out, deflecting the blow and wrapping around Thor's body. Iron Man's suit glowed brighter than ever as he fired off his final attack. This is it, he shouted, unleashing a pulse of energy from his chest. It shot straight toward the Master of the Void, but it was only a distraction. The real strike was coming from the inside. The final strike. Inside the Master of the Void's form, Tony had managed to plant an explosive charge, powered by a special energy pulse designed to disrupt the Dark God's essence. With a flick of a button, Tony activated the device. The Master of the Void screamed in agony as the energy pulse detonated inside him, a shock wave of pure power erupting from within. His form began to distort, the once solid, shadowy being warping and collapsing inward. No, he roared, his voice filled with pure rage and terror. You cannot defeat me. But it was too late. Thor, drawing on every ounce of strength left in him, summoned one final surge of lightning. Mjolnir crashed into the Master of the Void, and the combination of Tony's pulse and Thor's godly might shattered the Dark God's form. A final, deafening explosion echoed across the battlefield, and the Master of the Void was gone. Victory. For now. The sky cleared, the storm that had raged above them dissipating into calm. The battle was over. The alien army had crumbled, and the Voidbringer had been destroyed. But the Avengers knew that this victory came at a heavy cost. Their world had been on the edge of destruction, and it had been their unity, their strength, and their will to never give up that had saved it. Tony's suit flickered, but he managed to stay standing. Did we win? Hulk stood, shaking his head. Hulk smash good. Earth safe. Steve walked over to Thor, who was staring at the wreckage of the battlefield, his eyes somber. You did it, Thor, Steve said, placing a hand on his shoulder. Thor nodded. We did it. Together. As the Avengers looked out over the shattered landscape, They knew that the fight for Earth would never truly be over. But as long as they stood together, there was no force in the universe that could tear them apart. The aftermath and the new beginning. The dust from the shattered battlefield slowly settled, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The once mighty Voidbringer lay in ruins, its broken pieces scattered across the earth like the remnants of a fallen god. The alien army, now leaderless, had been scattered and defeated, leaving Earth scarred but alive. The Avengers stood at the edge of the wreckage, their bodies bruised, battered, and exhausted, but their spirits unbroken. Each of them had fought with everything they had. The cost had been high, but the victory was theirs. Thor, still gripping Mjolnir, surveyed the destruction around them. "We have won, but at what cost?" he murmured, his voice heavy with the weight of his own redemption. His mind lingered on the battles they had fought, the secrets revealed, and the trust that had been shattered. He had betrayed them once, but together they had all risen above it. Captain America placed a hand on his shoulder. "We're not just heroes because of our powers, Thor. We're heroes because of what we choose to do with them." His voice was steady, the unshakable confidence of a leader who knew that even in the darkest moments, hope was their greatest weapon. Iron Man let out a heavy sigh, his suit powering down as he dropped to one knee. "Don't make me get all emotional, Cap," Tony joked, though his voice lacked its usual flair. "But we pulled it off. The universe doesn't owe us a damn thing, but we just saved it anyway." Hulk's massive form lumbered over, his eyes still glowing with the remnants of his fury. Hulk smashed, but Hulk happy. He grinned, though it was a rare, almost childlike expression of satisfaction. "Earth safe. Hulk tired." The team shared a small, exhausted laugh, the kind that only came after facing the impossible and emerging victorious. A new threat on the horizon. But just as the tension began to ease, the sky above them rippled, and the ground trembled once again. The Avengers' attention snapped upward, their senses on high alert. Was it over? No. Far above them, in the vast expanse of space, something shifted. A dark silhouette emerged from the edge of the galaxy, its form shadowed by the glowing light of distant stars. A new threat, an unknown enemy, loomed on the horizon. "What the hell is that?" Tony muttered, his eyes narrowing as his suit's scanners began to ping, registering something powerful, something ancient. Captain America clenched his fists, his expression hardening. "Looks like the battle for Earth isn't over." "Not yet." Thor's voice was grim, his gaze locked onto the approaching shadow. "That is no mere threat. This is something older than the alien lords. Something far worse." Iron Man's eyes flickered. "Great. Just what we need. A cosmic-sized headache." The presence in the sky was unlike anything they had ever faced before, an ancient power that radiated darkness and void energy. A presence so immense it dwarfed the master of the void. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't an army. It was something worse. The Avengers quickly regrouped, their exhaustion forgotten, as they realized the threat was far from over. The Earth had been saved, but the universe? The battle for the cosmos was only just beginning, a promise to protect. Captain America stepped forward, his shield gleaming in the light of the wreckage. "This is our world, and no one gets to take it from us." Iron Man nodded, already analyzing the new enemy's data. "Let's get to work. I've got a feeling we're about to take on something bigger than we've ever imagined." Thor raised Mjolnir once more, the storm swirling around him as the sky darkened. "If they think they can break us, they are mistaken. We are the Avengers." Hulk cracked his knuckles, his massive fists ready to strike. Hulk ready. Hulk fight. With one final glance at each other, the Avengers knew that the road ahead would be long, their enemies growing stronger. But no matter what, they would stand together, united in their purpose to protect Earth and the universe. As the shadow grew closer, the Avengers prepared for the next battle. The next chapter in their war against the dark forces of the cosmos had just begun, and they were ready.